Hey there! Welcome to Confronting Conservatives. I'm Barry P. Cook. It's January 28th, 2023. It's just after 9 o'clock in the morning, and already today I've been having to confront some conservatives people. Because, they keep coming out with that mantra of just comply with the police. Why is that so hard in the wake of what happened to Tyree Nichols? And it just goes right up my ass. Now, I'm going to say that I didn't see the Tyree Nichols video. I only know what the end result was, and that it happened because cops beat his ass. What I am going to talk about is some of my experiences with cops, because I think it's important to understand that very often it has nothing to do with whether you do or do not comply. And these are anecdotes, of course, but, take from it what you will. I was driving one day in my neighborhood, and I turned down a street that has speed bumps. And it drives me crazy when people go over speed bumps at 1 mile per hour. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. And when I say 1 mile per hour, I mean they come to a stop at the speed bump and then just take their foot off the brake and let the car go over the speed bump from just the transmission being in drive pulling the car forward. And it drives me insane. There's no need to go over a speed bump that slowly. I don't care how new your car is. I don't care how fancy your car is. There's no reason to go over a speed bump that slowly. Now, I understand you're not supposed to take them at 35 miles per hour either. But you can take a speed bump at 4 or 5 miles per hour and not damage your car. You can slow down to like a rolling stop and actually use the gas to get over the speed bump without damaging your car. You don't need to hold up traffic at 0 fucking miles per hour. And so somebody was doing, as I described, slowing down and coming to a dead stop right in front of the speed bump and letting the transmission pull the car over the speed bump at like 0 miles per hour. So I got pissed and I passed them on the left and got in front of them so that I could drive down the rest of the street at a normal speed and take speed bumps at a normal speed for speed bumps and not creep over them and get where the hell I was going before I grew old and gray waiting behind this person. And it turned out that the person was a cop in uniform on their way to work. And this bothered him so much that he chased me down and got me to pull over, yelled out the window. I don't know what he did because it was his personal car. I don't remember how he got me to pull over, but he did. And then he got out of his car and came up to the side of my car and grabbed for the door handle. Didn't introduce himself, didn't ask me for my ID, didn't say a word, just walked over to my car and tried to open the door. Fortunately, for me, that door was broken and the outside door handle didn't work. It could only be opened from the inside. So I put my window down, he asked me for my license and whatnot, and he took down my information. And I said, there is such a thing as slowpoke driving. Oh, he didn't like that. He was fit to be tied, let me tell you. So the question is, what would have happened if that door opened? Was he going to reach in and grab me and try to drag me out of the car? I mean, I can't think of what else he might have been intending to do. And he could have done anything at that point. If he had gotten the door open, he could have shot me, he could have tased me. I mean, once I put the window down, he could have done that too. But I think in the couple of seconds it took for him to realize the door wasn't going to open and I put down the window, he calmed down a tiny bit. Because he could have just reached in and punched me, even, with the window down, but whatever. So the question is, what was he going to do if he got the door open? I mean, I don't think it can be denied that what he was going to do was kick my ass. And I hadn't declined to comply. I hadn't refused to comply. He told me to pull over, and I did. The very next thing that happened is he tried to open my door so he could beat my ass. So this business of, well, just comply and you won't get your ass beat, it's not true. And the crazy thing is, it turns out that what I did when I passed him was entirely legal. Well, except I didn't sound my horn. You're supposed to sound your horn when you cross the double lines to pass someone when it's safe to do so. It was safe to do so. I passed him across the double lines, but I failed to sound my horn. And that's the reason that he pulled me over and thought it was necessary to grab for my door before introducing himself, asking me to put the window down, anything. And it's crazy. He was just going to kick my ass after I did something that's legal, except for I did it slightly improperly. The crazy thing is, this dumbass, instead of realizing, hey, I'm just going to stand back from this one because I tried to open the guy's door, and what if he says something? He showed up at my house later with another cop to give me a ticket, which was dismissed in court. But I asked him, what were you going to do if my door had opened? And he wouldn't answer the question. He just ignored it and said something completely irrelevant to the question, something non sequitur. Like, well, that's your ticket now, and you can just fight it if you want. But he wouldn't tell me what he was going to do if my door had opened. Didn't apologize for going from my door. Nothing. So, this is who cops are. And people say, oh, those are just the bad apples. No. That is who cops are. They are on a hair trigger. And they think they are gods. And they will kick your ass for no fucking reason. Now, I had another incident. I was driving into a shopping plaza, and I was on a road inside this big plaza, and I was turning into one of the plazas within the plaza. So I was going this way, and there was a light in front of me, and I was turning left. And someone who I didn't know was a cop, who was in a car that looked like a mall security car, was coming this way, going straight. So when the light turned green, I went to turn, not thinking about right of way or any of that, which of course I should have, but I went to turn, and I made him stop short because he didn't expect me to turn. So I can't remember if he threw his hands up at me, and went like this. He may have, he may not have, I don't remember. But I went like this, and I looked at the traffic light, and I pointed to the light saying it was green. I had the green light. Because again, I thought at most I was talking to a security guard. So I went on my way, and this cop pulled me over. Now at this point, all I had done was I went when it wasn't my turn, according to the rules of the road and right of way. So he asked me for my license and registration. Now again, I thought he was a security guard. So I said, "Are you a cop?" And this is what he did. He reached for his gun, put his hand on his holster, unlatched it, pulled the gun part of the way out, and said, "You see this? I'm a cop." And he put it back in. And, long story short, he didn't give me a ticket because I told him he was acting crazy, and, I said, which, not the smartest thing to do, but he was. Because I said, okay, well, what did I do? He said, well, you made my paper slide off my dashboard, and you cut me off. And, you made a face at me and you gestured, and I said, well, I didn't realize you were a cop. Is it illegal to gesture at a fellow motorist? And he said, well, it is today. And then he went to sit in his car to look me up or whatever, but I went over and talked him out of it, which was crazy, I know. But he ended up not giving me a ticket. But, again, he was pissed that I had, quote-unquote, cut him off, or whatever, and that I pointed to the traffic light, like trying to say I had the green, without realizing he was a cop. So, he didn't like that at all. And when I didn't understand that he was an actual cop, and I said, "Are you a cop?" He fucking halfway pulled his gun on me. That's who these people are. And they don't care about the law. I said, "Is it illegal to gesture at a fellow motorist?" He said, "Well, it is today." That's who these people are. You could say, "Oh well, you didn't comply. He asked you for your thing, and you asked if he was actually a cop. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not giving my license or registration to a mall security guard. I wanted to know if he was a police officer. So I said, are you a cop? That's all. In no way, shape, or form does that warrant him drawing his gun partway out of his holster. He could have pointed to the badge on his shirt. He could have showed me his police credentials in his wallet. Drawing his gun, or halfway drawing his gun, I should say, was in no way warranted and was complete bullshit. This is who cops are. I had another incident where I used to drive a taxi at the airport, and they had a rule where you had to open the back trunk when you pulled up to the front of the airport because they were afraid of bombs. But some of the vehicles were vans that had hatchbacks, so when you opened the hatchback, guess what? It was fucking cold. So I went up one day, and the cop yelled to me from over the other side of the curb, "You gotta open your trunk." And I said, "Well, it's kind of cold. Do I really have to do that?" He's like, "Yeah, you gotta open the trunk." I said, "Can I ask you why?" And he said, "Well, I'm just doing my job." So I said, "Did you really just say I'm just following orders?" Which, is a sly dig, right? It's a reference to, the Nazis at Nuremberg said they were just following orders. You know what I'm saying? That's like a common thing that people who do fucked up shit say to pass the buck, to dodge responsibility. And I'm surprised he was smart enough to catch the reference. But he caught it, and he came over to my window and started giving me a hard time. Now, mind you, I've opened the trunk at this point. I was like, all right, I opened the trunk. And so he came over to give me a hard time. And so I was like, well, I don't understand. I opened the trunk. I'm not allowed to have a conversation with you. Like, I don't know if you know this, but you're allowed to ask the cops questions. So this whole idea, again, of just comply, no, fuck that. You're allowed to ask questions. And, it's one thing if I'm on my way home from work and I get pulled over and you want to say, listen, just comply, and if you disagree with anything they did, take it up with the authorities later. No, fuck you. I'm trying to get my work done. I'm trying to earn a living, and you're fucking with me. Making me freeze. Fuck you. I'm asking you why. It's not a permission slip for them to fucking go apeshit. So he could have just left it alone. He saw that I had the trunk up. He came over to bust my balls because I busted his balls. This is who cops are. This is their mentality. You don't challenge them because they're fucking gods. And so we're having a conversation. He calls his supervisor over. And the supervisor's busting my balls, saying, if you don't want to follow the rules, you don't have to work here. We can pull your clearance to work at the airport. I said, look, I don't mind following the rules. I just asked him, why. The supervisor was like, well, the why is because that's the rule. In other words, it doesn't matter why. He was like telling me that because my officer has no choice but to follow orders. And so meanwhile, the cop in question in the background was going, you were disrespectful. And that's what it's about. They want you to fucking genuflect in front of them. They want you to bow and scrape in front of them. And if you don't, they're gonna squeeze you at minimum. And again, this guy ended up letting me go, didn't write me a ticket or anything, but they had to flex because I wanted to know why. And when the guy said, I'm just doing my job, I said, are you saying you're just following orders? And I've had other altercations with cops that I can't remember the details of that demonstrate that they're just assholes. So cops need more psychological screening before they're hired. They need regular psych evaluations while they're on the job. I should have reported that asshole that almost pulled his gun on me, but I didn't. I should have reported the asshole who almost opened my door without introducing himself, but I didn't. And that's on me. I should have. I only hope the next person did before they hurt somebody. And the question is, do their supervisors know that they act like this? And if they do, why haven't they pulled them from duty? And that goes back to the case that's in the news. This person that these 5 cops attacked. Did someone know that they were on a hair trigger like that and prone to that kind of violence and overreaction? If so, why didn't they pull them from duty, and should they be prosecuted? That's what has to happen for these things to not happen in the future. So I'm talking about this on a Confronting Conservatives channel because the conservatives are always the die-hard, unflagging champions of the cops, and it's bullshit. Because by and large, cops are assholes. Power-tripping, God complex having assholes. And yeah, it's a tough job and they deal with a lot of shit, but they chose it. And that doesn't absolve them of acting like human beings. And whatever we need to do to solve the problem needs to be done. So, that's all I wanted to say. If you disagree with me and you want to rip me a new asshole, go right ahead. That's what the comment section is for. I'm happy to read your comments and I'm happy to reply. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. You've been watching Confronting Conservatives. I'm Barry P. Cook.